Hi guys, LegendaryWraith here, and welcome to this episode where we'll be looking at the St.pz.II, which is a tier 4 German artillery piece. In this episode we will go over the St.pz.II's strengths, weaknesses and loadouts, as always followed by a demonstration of its usage on the battlefield. Now, the St.pz.II, as I said, is an artillery piece, and as it is an artillery piece, its by far most important asset is its cannon. The St.pz.II can mount the 15cm SIG 33L11 howitzer, and it's the same cannon on both packages. In fact, the second package only upgrades your engine, your tracks, and your radio. If we go into detail with this cannon, the cannon has 3 different kind of rounds, 2 high explosive shells and a premium heat shell. The 2 different high explosive shells both have 75 penetration, but differ, where the first high explosive shell deal 350 damage, the second deal 450 damage. The price difference between these 2 shells is that the first smaller shell is priced at 200 credits per shot, and the more expensive high explosive shell is 280 credits per shot. In my own humble honest opinion, I think it's well worth spending 80 credits more per shot to have a potential of 450 damage per shot instead of 350. Also, concerning this 15cm SIG cannon, it has a rather poor aim time, a very slow shell speed, and a short range of only 600 meters. And trust me, that is very short for an artillery piece. Furthermore, the gun arch on this cannon is extremely narrow, to the point that you'll find yourself turning the tank time and time again as soon as you thought you were closing in on the enemy you were trying to aim at. The strength of this tank, on the other hand, is that it has a rather large splash radius for its tier. And the splash radius means that if you hit somewhere near the enemy tank, you deal a portion of your explosive damage to that enemy. Also, 450 damage for a shell is more than enough for most of the tanks you're gonna shoot at. Especially if you get a clean hit, that will take out a big portion of any tier 3, 4, 5, and also most of the tier 6 tanks. Furthermore, this cannon has a rather high shell trajectory, which means you won't be as hampered by enemies hiding behind rocks and buildings as most other artillery pieces. And concerning the supplies of this tank, as I said before, always take the high explosive Sprenggranat L, I think it's called, which is the more expensive high explosive shell. It's definitely worth splashing out on 80 extra credit per shot to have, as I said before, a potential of a lot more damage. As you can see here, between 338 and 563 damage per shot. I've never had one of these shots bounce a tank I shot at, so I can't really see when it's a good time to take the heat round for this cannon. You should bear in mind that as the shell trajectory is pretty high, you would pretty much always hit the enemy tank at an angle from above and down on him, which means you hit the top of his armor where he's not very well armored. Regarding consumables, personally I don't use them, as usually if you hit within 1 or 2 shots, you're gone anyway. Concerning equipment, I would recommend taking the camouflage net, of course, as it helps keep you covered. Other than that, of course, you could always take the medium caliber artillery shell rammer, or the enhanced gunling drive, as it will help you a lot with your aim speed or your load time. But do remember that these pieces of equipment here are complex, which means it will cost you 10 gold per equipment piece to dismount them from the tank. And when you sell the tank, if they aren't dismounted, you'll only get half your silver back. And now it's time to see how this tank performs on the battlefield. And here we are today on Fjord's standard battle. As you might have already seen, I'm in a tier 6 match with my tier 4 artillery piece, which isn't all too bad when you're an artillery piece, because when you deal damage to higher tier opponents, the game will reward you for that, as you will see later on. But yeah, here you can see I can't really hit some of the more well-known sniping spots on this map, so I'm moving a little bit further up the map here, so I improve my chances in case there are some tank destroyers or heavy tanks sniping from those positions. Here the first enemy is spotted, a leopard tank, but he's of course taken out really quick. And here's a nice bunch of enemies, an M3 Lee. Let's see. And there he's gone from my radar. The question is he still in that same position? Or should I go for another enemy? I go for him, and luckily he's still there. Taken out in a single shot, 310 damage. Very nice. Now here's the tier 6 KV-85. Really like to take some health out of him. Let's see. 99 damage. It's okay. Can we take some more? Oh, he starts moving. Yeah. And here you can see that extremely narrow gun traverse arch on this St.pz.II tank is really the curse, in my opinion, of this tank. You're gonna have a really hard time shooting at moving tanks, especially if they're moving not towards you, but from your left to your right or the other way around. And here that KV-85 has found a nice spot to hide away from me. Oh, maybe there's a good spot right here. Oh, yeah. There we go. Oh. Now, don't want to waste any more time on him. Let's see. There's a VK3601H. Maybe we can do something to him instead. Yes! 412 damage and some damage to his ammo rack. To a tier 6 tank. That's a T-34. 187 damage, and he's out of the game. Let's see, this KV-2 is just out of my range. Will he move back in? No, he's already gone. And again, I'm punished by that narrow gun traverse on this tank. And see, in another artillery piece with a wider gun traverse, my aim circle wouldn't have expanded as much, and I would have not wasted that much time aiming in on that Churchill 1, and I would have put some damage in. Luckily here, of course, my team did the rest of the job for me, but my point really just is that this tank really takes a skilled hand or enemies that are not moving about a lot and preferably within 400 to 500 meters of you. So in essence, you need to be either rather skilled or rather lucky to do really well with this tank. And here we go, the last tank on the enemy team here, a T-3485. Will I be able to put some damage in? And let's see. No, the shot went terribly wide. And that wraps up this 5-minute match in the St.pz.II tank. And here we are at the post-game stats. As you can see, not an impressive array of medals here, but I do want to note that I netted the Mastery Badge 2nd class with only 4 hits in this game. 4 hits and 2 kills, for a total of 1008 damage and 806 base experience. Now the reason why I netted so much experience for this amount of damage is of course that 2 of the tanks I damaged were tier 6 tanks. Now, had I instead ended up in a tier 4 match, killing, let's say, 2 tier 4 tanks and 2 tier 3 tanks, that might have ended up netting me about 550, maybe 600 experience points instead of 800 experience points. So when you're at bottom tier in an artillery, don't be all too bummed out about that, because that might actually be a benefit to you, as it will give you the potential to earn a lot more experience than you would have had in a tier 4 match. And it's really not that much harder in a higher tier match when you're playing an artillery. I hope you got some insight in this tank's strengths and shortcomings. Its most obvious shortcoming, in my opinion, is of course its very short range of about 600 meters and its extremely narrow gun arch, which forces you to relocate your tank time and time again if the enemy is moving. Its strength, in my opinion, is of course its pretty large splash radius for its tier and its very high damage output if you get a clean hit. It's been really great making this episode for you guys. I hope you found it useful. Please let me know in the comments below. You can check out some of my other episodes on my YouTube channel. If you would like to see more videos like this, please don't hesitate to hit the like and the subscribe buttons. Thank you for watching, and stay legendary.